The anime opens with RISTARTE, aka RISTA, who is ecstatic to be named the goddess of healing. But she quickly finds herself in a pickle since she needs to summon a hero from another planet to save Gaiabrand from a demon lord. She starts perusing a stack of hero profiles until she comes across the profile of Seiya Ruiguin, a Japanese hero with unusually high stats for a level 1 hero. She promptly summons him and is awestruck by his manly persona. Little does she know that Seiya, who appears to be an ideal hero, is arrogant and wary of everyone. In addition, after rechecking his profile, she finds that Seiya is too cautious, something she overlooked when she picked him up. Seiya refuses to proceed with the assignment too soon and insists on working out in his room. RISTA vents her displeasure to her fellow goddess, Ariadoa, who advises her to let Seiya work out in her room as much as he likes. So RISTA waits a week and then goes to see Seiya, where she is impressed to find that his level has increased to 15 by merely working out. After this, Seiya agrees to embark on the mission, and they both venture into the world of Gaiabrand. Their first stop is at Adona, where Seiya cautiously purchases 3 armors and other gear, much to RISTA's annoyance. They soon leave town and confront their first enemy, a timid level 1 slime, which Seiya easily defeats. But he goes too far, causing explosions and flames to ensure that every bit of slime dies. Just then, they are faced with Chaos MACHINA, a level 66 demon from one of the Demon Lord's 4 generals. She proclaims that she is on the lookout for the new hero, Seiya, before he poses a threat to them. Upon learning her level, Seiya and RISTA dash back to the Divine Realm. After they flee, MACHINA decides to destroy Adona. Once in the Divine Realm, Seiya finds out about the temporal discrepancies between the planets and that time moves slowly in the Divine Realm. He decides to leverage the extra time to increase his level. Meanwhile, MACHINA sends a warning message to RISTA through a magic crystal ball. She viciously claims to kill everyone in the town once every 10 minutes if she doesn't return with Seiya. But Seiya is nonchalant since 10 minutes of Gaiabrand equals nearly 16 hours of the Divine Realm, and he uses this time to raise his level to 21. They return to the town only to see MACHINA ready to murder a man. Seiya intervenes and saves the man. MACHINA is taken aback by his stats, and she unleashes her power. RISTA is terrified to watch MACHINA's stats rise. Still, Seiya retains the upper hand in the fight. As a result, MACHINA turns into her true demonic form, far more potent than Seiya, yet he manages to survive her deadly strike. Soon after, it is revealed that Seiya had been using the fake-out technique the entire time to mask his actual level, which is enough to destroy MACHINA. So, he instantly kills her with his Phoenix Drive technique. It earns Seiya the gratitude of the villagers, but he is more concerned that MACHINA will not revive, so he gathers her charred ashes and sets them on fire. The fire is so fierce that it picks up the entire village and burns it down instantly. The village's mayor, who was once grateful, now begs the two to leave the town. Back in the Divine Realm, RISTA wonders aloud to Ariadoa about her concerns regarding Seiya's extreme precautions. He suddenly interrupts their meeting and says his level isn't increasing further. Ariadoa suggests training with one of the gods as a solution. After this, the trio heads to meet with the Divine Blade God, Cerseus, who's been training for centuries. RISTA asks him to teach Seiya, and he agrees, but not before bragging about his abilities. Cerseus begins to train him, and Seiya's potential quickly equals his. RISTA continues to get updates from Cerseus and notices him growing glum and exhausted. On the 4th day, she spots Cerseus hiding from Seiya. He says that Seiya still forces him to coach even though his status level has overtaken his. Then he gets emotional and expresses how stressful it is to do training with him. Meanwhile, Seiya catches him, and Cerseus, the god of blades, throws his blade in the ocean and swears never to touch it again. Nonetheless, Seiya drags him to do melee training with him. Later, Ishtar summons RISTA, revealing that the Demon Lord is planning to deploy his army of undead, led by one of the 4 generals, Death Magla, to a chapel in the village of Simul. She also informs her about Mash and Alulu, the 2 allies she put there. So, RISTA and Seiya return to Gaiabrand via the portal and arrive at the village, where Seiya obtains some holy water. The two then proceed to the chapel, where they are greeted by Mash and Alulu, who introduce themselves as Dragonkin descendants. Seiya intuitively realizes that the chapel's father is the undead, posing as a human, and he pours holy water on him. The father is slain immediately, but not before devilishly announcing the coming of his undead army. Seiya destroys his body with massive explosives, and the entire chapel is destroyed in the process. After this, he brushes aside Mash and Alulu's help with arrogance. He informs them that their stats are too low. Outside the chapel, A group of armed men approaches Seiya, asking for help against the undead army. Seiya isn't interested in helping them until they pay him. They agree and he hesitantly brings RISTA to the area where the zombie army is stationed. Seiya defeats them by using his newly gained Meteor Strike skill twice, although he exhausts himself in the process. RISTA takes him to Simul, where she finds out about Mash's disappearance. She rushes to Seiya's room and sees a dimensional sword he built using synthesis skills and her hair as an ingredient. They soon get a two-way viewing mirror from Death Magla, who speaks through the mirror and confesses to abducting Mash. Just as he is about to harm Mash, Seiya slashes his hand with the dimensional sword. The two then use the portal to get to his location. RISTA comforts and heals Mash as Seiya battles one of Death Magla's demons, Dark Furus, who is made of fire. Seiya's Hellfire skills are rendered useless, yet he somehow manages to destroy Dark Furus. It turns out that he employed magical wristbands to gain new melee skills to defeat the demon. With that, Seiya easily defeats a befuddled Death Magla. They all return to Simul, and Seiya appoints Mash and Alulu to carry his luggage. Mash suggests the Dragon's Den as their next stop, but Seiya insists on returning to the Divine Realm. In the Divine Realm, Mash is taken under Circeus' wings while Hestica, the goddess of fire, trains Alulu. Meanwhile, after being rejected by Valkyrie, the goddess of destruction, Seiya trains with the cold goddess of war, Adanella. After 3 days of training, the group arrives at Dragon Village and meets with Leviathan, the great mother of dragons. She teaches Mash how to transform into a dragon, but when Alulu asks, Leviathan tells her that her destiny is to sacrifice her life to become the mighty weapon Ixasian. According to legend, the demon lord can only be defeated by the Ixasian sword, which can only be acquired with the blood of a female human like Dragon. Alulu meets the criteria, but Mash objects. Alulu timidly agrees, as Leviathan has given her final word. Then, in prep for the sacrificial ceremony, a great feast is prepared in the village. Seiya goes to the feast, where he eats the cookies served. Shortly later, the sacrificial ceremony begins, and the soldiers escort Alulu to the cliff. Mash attempts in vain to save her, and then Seiya steps in, beating up the soldiers. Then he fights Leviathan but collapses since she has tainted the cookies with a drug. Seiya unexpectedly awakens, baffling Leviathan, and reveals that he spat the meal out of caution. A big fight breaks out between the two. Seiya pulls out his self-made Dragon Slayer sword while Leviathan activates a wall between them for her safety. Meanwhile, she activates Alulu's curse, disclosing that she will perish shortly. Seiya then goes on a striking spree with his swords, forcing Leviathan to the cliff's edge before pushing her off with his wind slash. She attempts to flap her wings, but Seiya has already injured them, causing her to fall. At the same moment, Alulu's spells are broken, and Ixasian's sword emerges from the abyss. Seiya grasps the sword, drenches it in Alulu's blood drops, and tells the villagers that Leviathan sacrificed herself to save the world. Then he and the rest of the group depart from the village. Once outside, Seiya discloses that the sword is a fake and that he duped the villagers into thinking Leviathan's death was a sacrifice. Then they are met by an army that asks the hero to join them in defeating the demon lord's army in their territory. Seiya accepts and goes to the mentioned place, where he finds a swarm of demon flies, led by Beelzebub, massacring the army. Seiya avoids battle and instead approaches Rosalie, the army princess. She brings him and his crew to Olga Fortress to discuss strategy before the battle, but the meeting proves fruitless. Seiya returns to the Divine Realm, but not before going on a binge of slapping an enraged Rosalie. In the Divine Realm, Seiya gets archery training from Midas, the goddess of archery. On the other hand, Ariadne awakens the latent powers of Alulu and Mash. Then she exhibits their unleashed powers to RISTA, who is impressed and talks about Seiya's training with Midas. Ariadne gets alarmed and reveals that Midas is a nymphomaniac goddess, someone with intense sexual cravings. RISTA hurries to Seiya, where she sees Midas hanging from a tree. After freeing herself, Midas makes a move on Seiya, but he quickly stops her. After this, they return to Olga Fortress and find that Rosalie has gone out to battle with Beelzebub alone. Seiya rushes to Rosalie's aid, only to see her grabbed by Beelzebub. RISTA distracts him just as he is about to drop Rosalie, buying Seiya ample time to fire an arrow at him. Beel then rushes to him, but Seiya kills him in a snap. RISTA is also rescued, and she tells Seiya about a famous piece of armor at a nearby village's temple, Azael. So Seiya goes to the village and finds it in ruins. There, they come into contact with Kilkapol, one of the Demon King's 4 generals. He's already demolished the armor and has killed everyone in the town. He then kills himself to summon the much more powerful demon, cross Thanatos. Suddenly, Thanatos shows up and strikes Seiya, but the latter slashes him. Much to Rista's surprise, Thanatos immediately recovers. Upon seeing this, the group retreats to the divine realm. Unexpectedly, Thanatos crosses the dimension portal and prepares to strike Seiya, but he flees. While chasing Seiya, Thanatos defeats all the gods on his way and finally arrives at the place where Valkyrie is painting. He destroys her painting and pays the price by losing his life to Valkyrie's most powerful technique, unleashing the gate of Valhalla. However, due to using such a technique, Valkyrie suffers severe injuries and even bleeds. Seiya is impressed by her and asks her to train him, to which she agrees. Then Ishtar summons Rista to her dorm and tells her that one of the Demon King's 4 generals is heading to Gaiabrand's capital to topple it. The group travels to Gaiabrand, where they are met by Rosalie's army engaged in combat with the Demon King's army, led by Eraser Kaiser. In answer to his challenge, Wolk's Roseguard advances and easily subdues him. Rista is intrigued by his strength and asks why he doesn't stand and fight with the Demon King. Before she gets an answer, Wolk suddenly morphs into a baby. Seiya and his group are dumbfounded to see him, and Rosalie explains that her father, Wolk's, is spellbound. After this, the group visits the town and proceeds to Rosalie's castle. Rosalie greets them and tells them that her father is going to die soon. Then the group attends a meeting with Wolk's, who receives word of the Demon King's army attack. Seiya takes Alulu and Mash with him, leaving behind Rista with Wolk's. But it turns out to be a bad idea as Wolk's has shaken hands with the Demon Lord. He tells Rista that the Demon Lord has created the chain destruction, which can even destroy gods. Then Wolk's attacks her, but Seiya steps in at the right moment and comes to blows with him. Wolk's strike cuts Seiya's hand, but the latter uses the counter-break skill to return the same damage to Wolk. Then he easily defeats him and saves the day. Rosalie is sad and talks to her dying father. Later, Rista heals Seiya's severed limb, and he lets everyone enjoy some fresh air in town while he walks off alone. Rista, Mash, and Alulu return from their excursion and do not find Seiya in his room. After so many futile searches, the group returns to the divine realm to seek answers from Ishtar. The trio sees Aredoa sobbing inside Ishtar's house. She leads them to a secret dorm of God's soul, where Ishtar starts to speak. She informs them that Seiya left to face the Demon Lord alone. Rista doubts it, given Seiya's overly cautious nature and stats. Ishtar then spills the beans that Seiya's stats are far greater than she could see due to his fake-out technique. Moreover, his training with Valkyrie has maxed out his stats. Then, Ishtar throws the trio into a flashback of 100 years ago when Princess Tiana summoned Seiya. He was bold, carefree, and willing to fight at any time. Seiya once battled with his group against the Demon King and proudly slew him. However, it turned out that the Demon King had 2 lives, and he revived, murdering everyone, including Seiya and Tiana. Aredoa adds that RISTARTE, aka Rista, is the reincarnated version of Tiana and that when she summoned Seiya, he also regained his memories. That's why he's so wary and harsh. It's also why he's facing the Demon King alone. Rista, Mash, and Alulu teleport to the lair of the Demon King. She sees Seiya fighting the Demon King here. Rista's biggest nightmare comes true as Seiya opens the Valhalla door and traps the Demon King within. It is the same technique used by Valkyrie, who told Rista that if a human used it, he would die. As a result, Seiya's life energy begins to dwindle. Rista heals him with her total healing energy, going against the law. But the trial is not over yet as the Demon King walks out the door. Seiya uses the same technique to kill him again, finally. Subsequently, Seiya succumbs to the repercussions of this technique with a smile on his face and collapses to the floor. Sometimes later, Ishtar summons Rista and punishes her for breaching the law by assigning her to another mission. Then, she hands her the list of his heroes, and Rista sheds a tear of delight when he sees Seiya's name on it, the overly cautious hero. The anime ends there. Don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the notifications if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.